Great. So welcome everyone to our SYA informational session. My name is Julia Shire. I was in SYA Italy in 2006 to 2007. I'm thrilled to be here as part of tonight's informational session, along with some alumni that will join us in a few minutes. Feel free to put any questions that you have into the chat. We'll get through them a little bit later in the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and ask our alums to introduce themselves and just give a little bit of information about who they are, where they're from, and then we'll circle back to them for some questions.
Ciao tutti, mi chiamo Emerson e ho studiato in Italia l'anno scorso. Or hi, my name is Emerson. I studied abroad in Italy last year. Currently, I live in North Carolina, and because of SYA, I am I'm taking a gap year and traveling a little bit more this year.
Great, thanks, Emerson.
Hola y buenas tardes, me llamo Brooklyn Conti y yo estudiaba en Zaragoza, España, este año pasado. Voy a una escuela aquí en los Estados Unidos, se llama Culver Academies, y de momento estoy muy ocupada aplicando a universidades. Hello everybody, my name is Brooklyn Conti. I studied in Zaragoza, Spain last year. I'm from South Dakota in the United States. I go to a high school called Culver Academies. And right now, I'm currently busy applying to colleges in the US.
Great, thanks, Brooklyn.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Evie. J'ai fait SYA France il y a un an et j'ai habité à Rennes pour 9 mois. Et maintenant, je suis junior à mon école. So, hi guys, I'm Evie. I did SYA France last year. I lived in Rennes. And now I'm doing my junior year of high school at my school, St. Stephen's.
Great, thank you all. We're looking forward to hearing a little bit more from you later on in the presentation, but I'm gonna go right ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second. Perfect. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. So again, welcome to our School Year Abroad or SYA informational session. As we all know, the past few years have been defined by our homes and staying really close to home. But at SYA, we hope that you'll consider making the world your home for either a year or a semester through studying at School Year Abroad or SYA. With campuses in France, Italy, or Spain, SYA will give you the opportunity to step out of your comfort zone, gain independence, and put your textbooks into context. SYA is here to turn your learning journey into one that's focused on real-life experiences and adventures at one of our 3 European campuses. And I'll note that for our Spain and France campuses, we require 2 years of high school Spanish or French or the equivalent. For our Italy campus, there's not an Italian requirement, but we do require you to have 2 years of any language at the high school level or the equivalent. But instead of telling you about this opportunity, we're going to show you.
Every experience you have here will be an adventure. The risks, the rewards, they're all included.
This entire year has just been about things being based on where we are or where we are going with the school next. You learn about something and then you get to experience it. That makes classes a lot more engaging, knowing that we're going to see the things that we're studying.
You really feel the gravity of the things that you learn out of your textbook rather than just hearing about them and memorizing some flashcards. I think it's the difference between memorization and understanding.
It's not just schoolwork, it's actual practical experience that you can't really get anywhere else.
What SYA does best is make students comfortable being uncomfortable. You really start to embrace the idea of being uncomfortable.
I don't think any other program could really give you this experience. They're willing to throw their students into these situations, trust that we'll be okay, and in the end we are okay, and I think that we take so much away from it just because SYA is willing to give us that trust and freedom.
So the capstone project is the culminating end of year project for all SYA students. It's very much grounded in the fact that we are in Spain, and the goal of the project is to take best advantage of the resources that are around us.
I think that I've been able to get through the surface level of my experience here, not only with the land, but with the people. And I think that the longer that you're here, the deeper beneath the surface you can really get.
My host family, they are the cutest people I have ever met. I can leave Italy saying, I'm part Italian now. I am part of their family and they love me and I love them. The relationships that I've created with them, that's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
My friends have been a big part of this experience because I've been able to find a really good group of people who are just as adventurous as I am. I'm very glad I did SYA. It has opened my horizons to travel and being more independent.
I know it can be sort of scary thinking, oh, 9 months in a foreign country. It flies by so fast and it's so fun. It's an experience that I feel so fortunate to have been involved in. It's not something that a lot of people get to do, so if you have the opportunity, please do it.
For anyone who's on the fence about going to SYA or even applying, the fact that you're even thinking about it probably means that you're somebody who should be here.
Great, thank you all. Just going to pull the slideshow back up. Great. So as you saw at SYA, you'll live with a personally matched host family, fully immerse yourself in the local culture, and feel truly at home living abroad. You'll be part of a small student body composed of sophomores, juniors, and seniors from high schools across the United States, just like yours. And for those of you who might feel a little bit intimidated by the language element to our program, we want to assure you that a wide variety of language learners excel at SYA due to our fully immersive program. Our hands-on, fieldwork-based curriculum will challenge you to think creatively and critically while fulfilling graduation requirements at home. You'll venture outside the classroom and learn by exploring the culture around you. And as you uncover the connections between your coursework and your environment, you'll be challenged to take your education into your own hands. You'll be amazed at the self-reliance that you build when you travel throughout your host country and design your own capstone project. With the assistance of our extracurricular coordinators, you will also be given many chances to contribute to the local community through artistic, musical, athletic, and service-oriented opportunities. At each step of your adventure abroad, you'll be guided by dedicated local and American faculty that will serve as your teachers, advisors, and college counselors. In addition to traditional college advising and the ability to take standardized tests, SYA students find their voices overseas. The independence, self-awareness, and confidence you'll gain living abroad will help you stand out to colleges that best meet your needs. In presenting yourself to colleges as an SYA student, you'll have a distinctive story to tell, and you'll demonstrate the grit and the ambition that it takes to live in a different country and learn a new language. Just look at the schools most frequently attended by SYA students over the past 5 years. At SYA, we also believe that financial need should not discourage any student from the adventure of understanding a new culture. Nearly half of SYA students receive need-based financial aid or merit-based scholarships. It has been a long past few years, so no better time than now to step out into the world, learn through experience and exploration, and embrace a global perspective. We invite you to seize this new opportunity, to immerse yourself in a new language and culture, and broaden your world by making an incredible place like Rennes, Viterbo, and Zaragoza your home. Want to learn more? Scan the QR code, complete this form to receive updates, or visit us at sya.org/admissions. Definitely follow us on social media. Our campus influencers are creating content weekly. Great, so hopefully that answered a few of your questions and gave you a taste of what SYA is all about. but I'd love to bring back our alums to go through a few question and answer and story before getting into a wider Q&A. So thanks everyone again for being here this evening. So we'll just go through a few quick favorites. Brooklyn and then Evie, can you talk about your favorite class at SYA?
Of course. My favorite class in Spain was definitely my art history class. I took an art history class with a teacher named Sole, and it was incredible just because of how much experience we had. I remember distinctly learning about Gothic architecture and Antonio Gaudi, and then going to Barcelona to go see La Sagrada Familia, which is this incredibly beautiful cathedral, like his masterwork of art that he built. And so being able to study him and then go and learn about it, or being able to study Picasso in class and then later go see Museo Picasso, also in Barcelona. And they also have that museum in Malaga too. And then we studied about Banksy, the graffiti artist. And then we went to go see an exhibit of Banksy in a museum. So it was really incredible. I've never had a class before where we learn about things and then we actually are able to go and experience them in the real life. So I loved that about my art class.
Great, thanks. And what about you, Abby?
Oh, my favorite class was definitely either English or French, just because the English program was so place-based in the way that we studied Gertrude Stein and we studied Ernest Hemingway and how they were expats, especially in Paris. And we just kind of got that extra level of learning and a lot of extra motivation, definitely, because we were kind of living what we were studying, and we were allowed to add personal elements into our craft essays, which was so fun for me. And it really made me want to do creative writing later on in when I finished high school. So I loved English. And then French was just amazing because every day I got there and I could just feel like I would know a little bit more every day when I got to the classroom, and it was always really fun. So both of those classes were amazing.
Great, thanks for sharing. Definitely an experience that you just can't get in the States, of being able to go see a Picasso or see the place that you're reading about, even in an English class. So thanks. Great, so kind of extracurricular activities are also a really important part of SYA. Evie, can you talk about maybe a favorite co-curricular activity that you did?
Definitely. I signed up for art plastiques, which is arts and crafts, but outside of school, and it's a kind of a big deal in France, and I had no idea. And my host mom was like, "You should do art plastiques because our neighbor was friends with the lady," and something like that, and it was right next to my house. So I went not knowing what was happening. I've never taken an art class in my life before, and I ended up having a blast. It's like a teenager's arts and crafts class with the coolest teacher, and I ended up the first lesson ever was making a life-size puppet, and we had to cut the heads out of styrofoam. And I named that puppet, and I made its own little Instagram page, and it was the celebrity of our school for a while. I used to bring it in, and I brought it in for one of my capstone projects, and it's just the most fun I've ever had. It's probably in that class.
That's great. Definitely one of my favorite memories was also taking an art class, even though I'm a terrible artist, but it's hanging up in my home today. Food, of course, is a super important part of any travel. Brooklyn, can you talk about your favorite food in your country?
Of course. So my favorite food in Spain is definitely tapas, just because it's such a cultural aspect of the Spanish culture that I didn't really know about. So there's streets, entire streets, especially in Zaragoza, that are just completely dedicated to bars of tapas. And so I remember countless times that with my family, that I went with friends, and you go to one tapa bar and you order 1 or 2 tapas and 1 drink, and then you go to the next bar and you do 1 or 2 tapas and a drink, and then you just go to the next bar and the next bar and the next. And so it's called tapa hopping, and that's literally what you do. And these streets are so narrow and tiny that cars can't go through them. They're only for pedestrians, and the only things in these streets are tapa bars. And so it's really a whole experience, especially at night. There's the whole world feels it feels like the whole world's in that street. And there's lots of lights and cool graffiti on the walls, especially in Zaragoza. It's called El Tubo. And so that was one of my favorite memories, and the food was always really good.
Sounds great. Perfect. Travel is also a super important part of SYA. We'd love to hear about your favorite trip. Let's start with you, Brooklyn, and then let's start with Emerson and then go to Brooklyn.
I took a lot of trips with my friends, but I think my favorite trip was actually a 10-day school trip to Sicily. We all traveled as a school, and then we spent 5 days in Palermo and 5 days in Catania with other like small trips to more tiny towns, which is where I found my favorite town, Taormina. And it was just such an amazing experience getting to see all these places in Catania that we weren't like expecting to see. It's very different than you'd expect it, and the food is just so like it's Sicilian is like a different language than Italian, so it was even more of a culture shock from what we were already dealing with. But it was such a fun experience to stay in a hotel with like all of our class and just get to go around Sicily together and try Sicilian food, which is something different and amazing. And yeah.
Great, perfect. Now we'll transition to a little bit more storytelling. So we'd love to hear about host families. That's always such a, maybe the scariest and the most exciting part of thinking about applying to school year abroad. Can we hear about a favorite memory with host families? Let's start with Brooklyn.
Yeah, of course. So I had the pleasure of being just blessed with like the absolutely most perfect host family for me. I still talk to them all the time, but a favorite memory of them, I'd have to say was that I went rock climbing a lot with my host brother. We're just very similar interests in that way. And so we would go to the Pyrenees and these mountains kind of closer towards Madrid, a lot of weekends to rock climb together. And I just have countless good memories of rock climbing with him. But the host families really are like, for me, they were my favorite part of the whole year. And so I have too many good things to say about my host family. I love them so much.
Great, thanks. And what about you, Evie?
My host family on my 16th birthday did a little surprise party, and they invited a bunch of my friends to the living room, and it was really funny. That day I was not feeling it. I was like, oh, I had to get my vaccine and I had to go to Art Plastiques, and I was talking to my friend. I was like, I really don't want to go to Art Plastiques, but my friend was like, you have to go. Like, and then I came and my host family were all sitting in the living room with my friends that they had called their parents and asked them to like extend their curfews so they could come. All of us ate together, and it was really, really fun. Great.
Nice. That's so great. It's such a good example of sometimes even when you're abroad, you can have a down day and just kind of being able to push through and experience the life there, and that the host families really just take you under their wing. You become part of their family and not a guest, that they really want to, take care of you. So that's a great story. Perfect. We'd love to turn to favorite fieldwork activities. What were some of your favorite fieldwork that you did? Let's start with Emerson.
There's a course at SYA Italy called agroecology, and there's a specific fieldwork that goes with it. And at SYA Italy, we do fieldwork every Wednesday. And my personal favorite was we hiked for like an hour or so to this vineyard. And just the entire afternoon, we were picking grapes and learning about, how this vineyard grew them and all that. And it was actually the start of the process of making our own wine for agroecology, which is like the coolest thing I think I've ever done. And it was just so interesting, and probably it's one of my favorite memories. So it's definitely the best one.
Great. Perfect. What about you, Brooklyn?
Yeah, kind of a similar experience. My environmental science class, my favorite fieldwork activity that we did is that we went to this tiny little village, kind of in the middle of nowhere, Spain, and it was originally it was abandoned olive orchard grove, but people had like recuperated it, and so we went there and we planted 300 olive trees together as a class, and that was just such an incredible experience to plant the olive trees, but then also to like see the olive orchard, see how they make the olive oil, and then be able to like taste test with bread the olive oil. So it was just very incredible experience that I always think back on.
Great. Sounds wonderful. I think folks always want to know like what a typical day is like abroad. can you talk about the community, either your SYA friends, teachers, just kind of what a normal day is like? Let's start with Emerson.
A normal day at SYA Italy definitely includes a lot of cappuccinos and pastries from across the street. But in my experience, my SYA class was really close. And most days were just kind of like learning together, I guess, and knowing that it's okay to like make mistakes. I think that was like the biggest thing that I had trouble with. But the teachers at SY Italy are some of the most amazing people I've ever met. They're so helpful and like eager to show you art history or the language or anything else. And in my experience, just overall, the town, the teachers and the students are just kind of like this one large community and family, which is something super special that I had never experienced before SYA.
Great. And what about you, Evie? What was a typical day like?
My typical day would normally be waking up and taking the 31 bus right next to my house. It's about like a 15-minute ride and down, and their stop was like right next to my school. And then it was like a beautiful walk to campus because our campus is like a mansion in the middle of this neighborhood. It's amazing. And normally my friends like to hide behind the brick and scare me whenever I go to school. So if I'm late or if the bus is running late, I will be terrified. And then I go through school, and then we have a long break for lunch, and where we can go literally anywhere. Like usually with my friend Kevin, we got pasta, or if we felt like it, we would go to the high school and we would eat with the kids there. We had a lot of friends there, and then after school ended, we would go with more of a bigger group to the park, and we would go and hang out. And they sold ice cream there, and we would hang out, or maybe we would go to the square and go shopping or buy stuff we needed. And then I would go home at like 6 o'clock, do my homework, talk to my host family, and probably hit the hay. It's always a long day.
Great. Sounds fabulous. Perfect. So now we're going to transition into some Q&A. Folks submitted questions either through Instagram or through their registrations. So we'll go through those, but we also, again, invite folks that are listening live to submit any questions in the chat. We'll be sure to answer them. So the first question is, my school is on a trimester schedule. Can I do SYA for just one of my terms? It depends a little bit on the school. We would recommend that you talk to your advisor and talk to the admissions team to see if there's a workaround, but it can be a little bit more difficult with trimesters. The next question was about school athletics and can you join sports and what are available? I'd love to hear from alums about if any of you all played sports or what your peers did.
I didn't do any sports. I mostly did art extracurriculars, but from what I know, a lot of my friends, especially in Italy, did soccer, and that was with like the local soccer team, which kind of helped improve your language skills because, of course, you're around people who don't really speak English, but it also kind of gave everyone the chance to do sports. And another one of my friends did rock climbing. There's a rock climbing gym in Viterbo as well. But other than that, I think most people I know did soccer, but I think a lot of other sports are offered in every country, including Italy. And it just kind of depends on what the town has. So.
Great. Brooklyn or Evie, do you want to add?
Sure. I had a friend named Aiden, and he was really into soccer. He's really good at it. And he played with a club team in France with us, and we got to go see it. It was really cool. And he actually went to college for soccer, I think D2 or D3. So you can definitely keep it up.
Yeah, just to add on a bit, I had I did mostly art curriculars too, which is really good. But I had a friend who did rowing because there's a big river that runs right through Zaragoza, and she got so close to the rowing team. It was really cool to see that. And a lot of the guys did soccer, and a lot of girls did soccer too, and basketball, volleyball. There was a ton of sports available to join.
Great. Yeah. So just a reminder that a lot of the extracurriculars are not organized by the school as they typically are in the States, but they're usually what's offered in the town. And that's really intentional. So, as folks were saying, to be able to go out in the community, meet locals, meet folks your age, practice your language skills, and really kind of see what's available in the community there is just another way to be fully immersed, and then also either continue doing something that you love or try something that you've never done before, like cooking classes, or get involved in like an internship type of opportunity or what have you. There's a lot offered in each of the 3 campuses. The next question was the difference between the summer and the semester programs. So just briefly, the summer is 5 weeks. Students still live with a host family, but only language classes are offered in the mornings. Students can do cultural activities in the afternoon. So that might be travel with the school or meeting with local officials or doing extracurriculars. And then, of course, the semester is a little bit more like normal life. It's a full school day with a full course load. Again, the ability to do extracurriculars afterwards, and obviously just a much longer time to get acclimated, to work on your language skills and bond with the peers in the host family. In terms of courses that are available, some of the alums touched on this a little bit. We have a course catalog that's available. We might be able to drop that in the chat as well, and you can look to see what is what you can expect at each of the 3 campuses. The next bunch of questions were all about host family. Again, a really popular question and one that brings up a lot of nerves, I think, for folks that are packing to go in the fall. So there's a question about a process of matching a person to a host family and how are host families selected. So the host families go through a really intensive screening process. They're interviewed, there's a background check, there's a site visit. A lot of host families are recommended by other host families, so by word of mouth. And a lot of the host families will host for many years in a row. So they're really used to having American students with them and kind of the flow of the year, the style of SYA. And there's a really nice network kind of amongst the host families in each of the countries. And then when students get accepted and decide to go, there's a little bit of a survey process where you can fill out some of your preferences, if there's anything that you need to know, like allergies or anything in particular, if you would really love little host siblings. And then the students are personally matched with each of the host families by a specific staff member that knows the host families really well and has been often doing this for many years and is able to match folks with host families that are the best fit for them. I'm wondering if some of the alums would love to talk about either their experiences kind of filling out the survey, some nerves with meeting their host families, or any advice you'd have about the host family experience.
I know that I was really nervous to meet my host family, but they do reach out to you before you even come to the program, which is something that I found super helpful. But I think all my nerves just kind of went away with my first dinner with my host family, which sounds crazy because like I was jet lagged and tired, but they were just so welcoming and excited, and they made me like this huge traditional Italian meal. And it was just kind of like suddenly it hit me. I was like, wow, I'm here, and these are people I live with. And it just kind of it's unlike any other experience. You just have to be okay with like making mistakes and know that your host family is there to help you and that they consider you a member of their family, which is something that took me forever to realize. But like to them, I was one of their children during the year, and so on and so forth, because I still talk to them. And like my host mom is my favorite person ever. So.
Yeah, I would just add on to like when you meet your host family, especially if you have siblings, my advice would just be like, make an effort to like try to spend time with them. In my case, it was pretty easy with my brothers. We both were really outdoorsy, like hiking and rock climbing, so I got pretty close with him really easily. And then the other brother, he was a bit different than me, because he really liked like video games. But we got really tight actually because we would like share music. We'd like watch movies, and then I'd even like play video games with him just to, like to spend more time with him. And when they notice you putting the effort in to get closer with them, they also like mimic that same energy and will also put the effort forward to get close with you. And when you're buds with your host siblings, like that really helps you to like mesh into the family. And then like how Emerson said, they really do like treat you like a member of the family. And you just, it's so incredible how strangers that you never met before can give you so much love. It was incredible.
Great. The next question was about college prep, and is college prep hard? Is it difficult to kind of stay on track with what you need to do for college applications? And in terms of college counselors, there's a counselor at each campus that really helps walk students through the process of preparing for college, whether you're a sophomore just kind of getting started thinking about things, or a senior that's actually going through the motions of applying while you're there. We're an accredited testing site. There's a lot of support that's available. Also, it really helps if students have been able to at least start thinking about what colleges they're interested in, maybe gone and visited if possible. But sometimes the experience of being abroad might change what college location or even subject that you want to study in college. So it's good to also kind of keep an open mind while you're there. Does anyone want to comment on some of the college counseling, or if they felt like it helped them keep them on track?
So I was a senior when I went to SY, and though I'm currently in a gap year, my college counselor in Italy helped me so much just kind of getting prepared to apply to college, because I decided that I wasn't going to apply while at SYA, but actually during my gap year before traveling again. But they ensured that I could contact them after school was over and get recommendations that I needed. And I believe at the end of the school year, they sent out a form for everyone, just so teachers knew that person was going to come back after a year or two and ask for a recommendation. But they've been super helpful. And I know that a lot of my friends took the SAT during the school year at least once or twice. So as far as my experience went, college counseling was super easy, and it made it less stressful for me, at least, even though I wasn't applying at that point, but it really did help me prepare for what I'm doing currently.
Great. This was one of my favorite questions that came in. How did you convince your parents to let you go?
I can say something. My mom actually recommended SYA to me. My sister applied for a semester abroad, and I didn't want to be at my school without her, and we were kind of joking. And then my mom looked online, and she found SYA, and then some of my friends from my school had done SYA, and we were like, wait, this kind of sounds perfect. And then of course, once I applied, she was like, no, don't go, don't do it. But then we were just kind of it was pretty obvious that it was the right choice. So we kept in touch, of course, and I think that when I came back, we were both like, yeah, that was definitely the right move. So if you want to convince your parents, I would just say this is going to be good for me, and give them some reasons why.
For me, my sister actually went to SYA 5 years before I did. So I actually got to visit Viterbo when I was 12. And I got to sit at Christmas dinner with my sister's host family, who actually happened to be related to my host family when I went there, which was really cool. And it's just, my parents saw how much of an amazing experience it was and how it changed my sister, how happy she was. And at that moment, when I was 12, I was like, oh, I'm totally going here. There's no question about it. I'm moving to Viterbo at some point in my life. And after COVID happened, I was like, yeah, I definitely have to get out of here. And my parents both just knew it has such a great effect on me and my sister. And it's kind of an unexplainable experience that I guess you kind of have to see it happen. But I think second time around, my parents were a lot more relaxed with allowing me to go. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think that one thing that really helped my parents was really to know that it was a very established program, that SYA has been doing this for um, years and years. They've kind of seen everything, every type of student applies and excels at SYA if they're, interested in putting themselves out there and learning a language and immersing themselves in a new culture. There's an immense amount of support. The host families are screened very carefully. And there's just an incredible amount of care that's taken to really helping the whole student, not just academically or socially or language wise, but really in all aspects of your development of coming into yourself and learning more about who you are in a different culture. This is another great question. What was your best experience?
I had the opportunity to travel with my friends a lot, and my favorite sort of thing I have ever done with, was, oh, not my sorry. I got to go to Corsica. I took a 13-hour ferry with my my 3 best friends from the program. It was an overnight ferry. We watched the stars, we watched the sun go down. We went to sleep, and the ferry landed in Corsica at 7 in the morning, and the first thing we did was we went straight to the beach. And we literally sat on the beach all day, and that lasted for, 2 weeks. And that was during our break, and it was amazing. I learned so much on that trip, and it was the first time I got to go, really vacation without, but kind of by myself with my friends.
Yeah, I think kind of like traveling too. I think the best experience for me was being able to travel so extensively, because when you're living there, at least Spain had like an incredible train system. I could get train tickets pretty much anywhere for like 20 euros, which was just incredible. And so you were able to travel with your school on school trips, your host family, and you could take independent travel trips with your friends. So that's like 3 ways you can travel. So obviously we traveled a ton. And the coolest part was we got to see like a lot of places that are just really unique. Like each autonomous region or like states in Spain is so unique, and we didn't just see like the typical like Madrid and Barcelona. Like we got to see so many other unique like villages and small towns. Like really got to see we really got to see the full extent of Spain and how diverse it is even within the tiny country that it is. And then also like using our like language skills, being able to use Spanish. I had like conversations with like old like grandmas in these tiny villages that were just like the most unique experiences that I would never be able to get outside of like that experience of SYA. So it was really incredible to be able to travel so extensively and in such a like intimate manner.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the independent travel is something huge. And not only is it like amazing you're visiting another place, but also it really helps you learn how to like book hotels, and it helps your language skills because you have to call those hotels and speak in Italian or Spanish or French. But I definitely think one of the best times I've had was either my 18th birthday. We were in Florence for a school trip. And I went to like this cool like jazz club thing with my friends where we just kind of like danced for a while. And like it was like this live Italian band. And I ate like the best gnocchi of my life that night. But I also for spring break got to travel to Lake Como and not only visit like the well-known cities, but also take a ferry. And I think like the best part is like the accidents you make, which is weird. Because like my friends and I accidentally took the wrong train out of Lake Como and ended up in this random town. And no, it wasn't like the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but like it was definitely something new, and like you get to talk to new people and hear about their stories. And I think that's just kind of like an amazing part of traveling and getting to know a new culture.
Great, perfect. Definitely a clear theme there. I think one of the wonderful parts of the campuses is that they're not in the capitals, so they're not they're intentionally kind of smaller, more like community based, not as touristy. So there's not as much English in the areas. So you're really able to develop a real sense of community in this tight knit little area, but then also go out and travel. And just to note that all the independent travel that the alums are referencing, There's a little probationary period at the very beginning of the year. So you have to, be in good academic standing. You have to submit a bunch of paperwork to make sure that your travel is approved, that your host family and your family knows where you are and what you're doing. But you are encouraged to travel with small groups to have the wonderful experiences that our alums are sharing, and to be able to see other parts of the country that might be almost feel like a different country than the town that you're staying in. So we just have a few more questions. How did you know SYA was right for you?
I guess like I mentioned, I saw how well my sister thrived. And I don't know, I think figuring out it's definitely like a difficult decision to make, like leaving your family for such a long period of time. But I think the reason I went is because, yes, I was nervous, but I was also so excited to go and like learn a new culture and go to a different school. And I think the fact that I was so excited about it kind of like definitely trumped over like the nervousness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, that is exactly how I knew like I needed to be there, and this experience is going to be amazing. And I was not wrong at all. And it ended up being, I mean, one of the best years of my life, or the best year of my life. But for just knowing that it's your like place to be, I definitely agree with like what the video said of like, if you're excited and this seems like something that you would be totally into, it's definitely a place that you should consider.
Great. Perfect. Well, we'll do one more question. What did you do to prepare for the language before you went? And any advice for folks that are really nervous about the language part of it?
Okay, so this is where I think I can help a lot of people, because I came in with the bare minimum required by the program. I came in with 2 years of Spanish. And the Spanish 1 class that I took was literally over Zoom during quarantine. So I did come in as one of the kids with a lower level of Spanish. And there were kids in the program that had gone to immersion schools their whole life. They had Spanish parents, so they spoke in the household. I was intimidated. I was scared. But when I got there, there were other kids like me that did arrive with like a low Spanish level, and there were some kids that had a higher Spanish level. So there was like a variation, but we were all put in classes according to like our level, with other kids that would help us to grow and kids that were at our level. So that was really nice. And also I would say like it depends completely on like how you use your Spanish or your language during the year. So like I made a big goal in my head that I wanted to leave Spain as fluent. And so I spent a lot of time with my host family. I made the extra effort to like make Spanish friends, like local friends, and then like to always put myself in language. So I grew a ton that year. And it's incredible. Like I never thought that I could grow that much in a language skill in 1 year, but I did, just because of the immersion environment and like the work that I put into it. So you can begin at the very bottom of the staircase, and you can climb your way up actually pretty easily. So that was something that was really amazing.
For me, I also didn't know that much Italian, but Italian isn't like required. It's not like a 2-year requirement, like I think the video said beforehand. But I did a little bit of Duolingo. I knew like ciao and posso avere or vorrei, which is like I would like. That's how to order something. And I definitely struggled in the first semester because I think what I figured out was I was so worried about like being perfect and trying to like perfect my Italian, and I was so worried about like saying anything wrong. But what I realized soon after is like the way to learn a language is to make mistakes, talk to the people around you, like especially the Italian people. They're so excited to know that you're wanting to learn their language, and just talk to them. So I found, just like as Brooklyn said, like putting yourself like out there is huge, and making the effort is, you're only going to get as much as you put in. So like going to talk to your host family, spending extra time with them, asking for help on homework, it really ensures that you learn the language. And suddenly I think like the weirdest point is like I feel like for me at least, there was like this point in time where I was like sitting at the dinner table and I could suddenly like understand everything they were saying. And it was just kind of like oh my gosh, I can speak this language and I understand it. And this is crazy. Like, how did this even happen? but it's definitely, I know it can be scary, but you learn it no matter what.
Great. I think that's a perfect wrap up for us this evening. I think just a great reminder from all the alum stories that if you're at all interested, like the video said, it's probably a sign that you're being called a little bit to check it out. Definitely reach out to our admissions team if you have any questions, either if you're a parent or a prospective student, we can help answer any questions that you have. Definitely follow us on social media, Instagram, etc. If we didn't get to your questions, definitely reach out. And thank you again to the alums for joining and for everyone who joined us live. And we hope to hear from you soon.